I
Ready.
think we should
We got
have a little
this.
boozy. We're ready. Coming to you live, the Confession Show. Confessions of a Global Changemaker. We're already dancing. We're
We
feeling
got
in
this.
love. We're crossing the pond with a disco ball with this amazing lady from Fort Worth in Texas. I want to introduce you in dancing fashion to the amazing Dr. Stevie Dawn Carter. Hello, welcome to the show.
That was awesome. Now I'm hot though, and I need my Beyonce fan because I worked up a sweat in our little dance intro there. So yeah.
I like it. I like it. Now, I was on your show a little while ago as well. So
Yes.
this is like payback now. I get to ask you all of the questions.
Indeed. I guess I should have thought of that before I agreed. But yeah, okay, we got this.
You could have done. Now then, Mrs. I just think you're a wonderful entrepreneur. We were introduced by another wonderful entrepreneur, Mr. Donny Bovine, and he said, you've got to meet this woman. She's just dynamic. She's just doing the most amazing things. You have to meet her. And he wasn't wrong. Tell the audience a little bit about why you do what you do. Let's see if they can guess what you do through why you do what you do.
Okay, I love that. So I think the why I do what I do is probably the same for a lot of people, which is, man, I was really screwed up for a large part of my life. Like, I didn't understand my own value. I didn't know my worth. I was making these decisions just to suit everybody else, to make everybody else happy. And I finally reached that point in my life where I said, that's not it. Like, that's not the big picture. The picture should not be about what so-and-so wants me to do or what so-and-so thinks I should be. It should be what I want to do. And so I think the reason I do what I do now is because I spent so many years like that. And now I see it in other people and I'm like, ooh, we got to cut that out. You don't need to live like that, because once you release it, the world opens up. And so I think that's why I do what I do.
That's amazing. And would you say that there are a lot of people unconsciously living someone else's life right now?
Absolutely. I think we are programmed from childhood and through our teenage years to check these boxes, right? Like you're supposed to grow up and go to college or uni. You're supposed to get married. You're supposed to have 2.5 kids. I don't know how you have the 0.5. You're supposed to have a dog. You're supposed to have a house with a white picket fence, not a boat. There are these things that society tells us we're supposed to have. And so we're checking off the boxes like mad, right? Trying to be a good, productive citizen. But are we living a life that we want? Or are we simply just checking these boxes? So I think there are a lot of people that unconsciously have done that. And I think there's that moment. For me, it was in October of 2006. I had been a dancer my whole life. Dancing was my whole career. And I had that moment where an injury made the doctor say, you will never dance again. And you're going to be lucky to walk. And my whole life stopped. Like, I remember that moment. I probably don't remember the 2 months after it. I think I was just in a hole. But I think for a lot of us, that's what it takes to shift you out. And that was one of the first moments in my life where I felt that shift of, wait a second, then I need a plan. And what plan do I have? And so what did I do? I went back to my checklist. Oh, okay, I need to go back to school. I need a degree. Okay, I'll do that. And then, I need to get married. I'll do that. I did all these things. Why I did dance was because I loved it. And now I was building this box for myself that everybody else told me to have. And I had another one of those moments when I was finishing up my PhD. People are like, you get thousands of dollars in debt, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt to get this PhD. What are you going to do with it? And the truth was, I didn't want to do anything with it. I was done. And so I had that screeching halt moment again of, whoa, where am I going next? What am I doing? And it was then that I finally decided this box, this list, I don't need that. I want to make my own life. And that's what led me to being an entrepreneur. So I think we hit that. I think we all have moments like that where you become crystal clear on what it is you're supposed to be doing. And then it just takes a lot of guts and a lot of courage to follow that new path, as opposed to following the preset boxes.
Yeah, I agree. Having been through that route, for sure,
Yes.
I know exactly what you mean. And for those of you watching, like, how many of you have ever reached that point where actually you feel like you're done because this isn't you, or I wish I could do that. Why am I doing? I wish I could. Where as soon as you start getting into that, I wish and the grass is greener kind of territory, that's when you're not in true fulfillment. So tell us then, how do you bring dance, other than us jigging across the planet? I'm feeling the moves. You
Feeling
just have
it.
to mention the word
Feeling it.
dance and I'll just go into one.
You just go,
Um,
you go for it, you Vogue,
How do you
and we got
bring
this.
that passion that you had for dancing? How do
Mhm.
you bring dance into your business now?
Yeah, that's a great question. The moral of the story is, don't always believe what people tell you. I was able to dance again. I do still dance. I'm a competitive West Coast swing dancer. I travel the country and dance. Well, not right now as we're recording this during COVID. I don't travel anywhere, but before now I did. Usually once or twice a month, go somewhere and dance. For me, dance had to become the injury didn't go away. It wasn't healed. So it was something that I dance in pain when I dance. There's no way to not be in pain. So what that means is I needed it to take a back seat. It couldn't be my whole life, right? It couldn't be something I did every day, all day long, which is what I was doing before. It has to be something that I do occasionally and then probably spend the plane flight home. Usually my foot is on ice as I'm trying to make it okay again to get home. So now I feel like the passion that I had in dance, I've had to change that a little bit and to find a new passion. And what I did is I retraced, why did I love dance so much? Well, I love the freedom of it. I love the movement of it. But really what I did in dance is I was a teacher. I was a teacher. I was a competitive coach. I was a judge because I like to be judgy. I was that person. So what really came to me after I left the dance world as a full-time career was I need to do something in that same sphere. How can I still be a teacher? How can I still be a coach? How can I still judge people? Because I like it. So that's kind of what led me. So I think now I'm using that passion for teaching. I'm using that passion for coaching. And that's how I'm still getting that feeling. And what's interesting is many of my clients, even though we never talk about dance, we have dance in common. They either were a dancer, are a dancer, we know each other through dance. So I think dance still sits there, obviously, like in my, wait, it's on this side. In my office, it's the mirror image thing. I'm like, whoa, here, yes, okay. But, dance is in my life in those moments rather than actually being an activity I do. It's more just in my freedom and in the people that I coach.
Yeah. And for you to have gone into what you're doing now, that's quite a pivot, isn't it? Do you think, would you have still pivoted in the way that you have had you not been forced to? Do you think that's where you would have ended up? Do you believe in destiny?
That's such an interesting question. I do think that. I think I would have ended up here regardless. I think it would have been at a different time in my life. I probably would have kept dancing and done that into my probably 40s or 50s. And then this would have been like a retirement plan. Like, okay, my body can no longer do it. Let me do something else. But really, I think I would always end up here because a lot of what I do in teaching dance is not about the movement. Anybody can learn the movement, right? Everybody's like, oh, I've got 2 left feet. Yes, you can still learn to walk, which means you can still learn to dance. What I actually think people go to dance lessons for and what we actually coach them on more than the steps and more than the movement is the confidence. To be a dancer means you got to be willing to put yourself out there. You have to take risks. You have to have that confidence and that attitude of I'm going to release all of the people's judgments, of people's thoughts about what I'm going to do. You have to have that as a dancer. So I think me coaching as a dancer and coaching through dance, I still coached on a lot of the same topics I do now. I just do it without having to lift my leg over my head, which is definitely a plus.
I love that. Is that your party trick? Like, do you...
I have other party tricks, but yes, sometimes people will, when they know you're a dancer and you go to a party, people are like, dance, like dance monkey dance, and I'm like,
on demand,
right? Exactly. And now I will say though, if the music's right, you probably don't have to tell me very much. I'll probably do it without. It's why I have a stand-up desk, right? Because I typically, like, while I'm typing my emails, I'm like doing this. I can't stand still. So that's why I have the stand-up desk, because I can't sit for hours either.
So who was the influence that got you into dance then? How did you even end up doing that?
Oh, that's a great story. So my parents, love you, Mom and Dad. My mother watches everything I do, so I'm sure she will watch this.
Hello, Mom.
So I love you, Mom. My mom and dad were musicians. My dad still is. My mom only sings when we get her to sing at church or sing the Star Spangled Banner at a football game, but it's totally worth it when the whole audience does this and looks at her, because she's amazing. But my parents were musicians. That's what they did together. And as I was born, or as I was coming into creation, Fleetwood Mac was a big influence. And so
you even know that.
Yeah, I'm a huge Fleetwood Mac fan. So obviously, because my namesake, Stevie Nicks. So my mom used to sing some Stevie Nicks songs. And so when I came out of the womb, I came out musical. Now, my parents can both play instruments and sing. I cannot play anything except a tambourine, and even that, it's a little dicey. But I came out with the music in that I do sing, and I also dance. Now, neither of my parents were dancers, although my dad, still to this day, Mr. Rock and Roll himself, he still will kick up a leg while he's playing his keyboard. So I guess he dances a little bit. I love you, Dad. So they took me to dance, I think, because I had that music in me. And I think I bounced around as a child so much that my mother was like, we need to put her in something constructive because she's wild. And so they actually put me into, I started with baton twirling. They actually put me into baton twirling when I was 18 months old. And I never looked back. I stayed.
You must have been a wild child. 2 years old. Let's get a do something.
Can you imagine? I must have been bouncing off the walls. And back then, we didn't talk about like ADD or ADHD. I probably had those, but that wasn't it. But I love the music and I love the people. And so my mom put me in dance, and I never stopped. I continued to do it for the rest of my life. In fact, my first business, I've owned 4 businesses in my life. My first business was a dance studio in Australia. That was my first business. And then my second business was a dance studio that my parents co-owned with me. So my mom and my stepdad actually worked with me at the dance studio. So it's a part of our life. And Fleetwood Mac is always on a playlist somewhere. So it's good stuff.
Love that. I love that. So tell us about the other 2 businesses, seeing as you've already gone down this track.
Yeah, so I've done 2 dance studios. I also went into the idea of a fine art gallery. My husband and I love to collect art. Again, this is actually like a collector's piece of art, not just a picture of a dancer. And if my camera can move, I could show you all the other art we have on walls. We collect fine art. And a couple of years ago, we said we should create our own gallery and sell fine art because we have way too much and our walls can't handle it. So we did that. And, right now it's kind of hard to be an art gallery that people can't go to. So we switched to an online gallery. And so Carter Fine Art is out there in the world. And we do that, which really is just an excuse for me to collect more art, even though I know it can't go on my walls. It just gives me a reason to do it. And then we started 6 years ago, we started a corporate training business. And so going into corporations and doing training on leadership development, communication, emotional intelligence, using all those skills I learned in all my degrees and trying to put them out into the world. And so we've done dance studios, we've done fine art, and we've done corporate training. It's all over the map. And our next one is we want to, at some point in our lives, way in the future, but at some point in our lives, we're going to own a bed and breakfast, because I think that would be cool.
I love that. It's just like so diversified in everything you're doing.
All over the map.
So I'm trying to find your website so I can put the link on here. So
yeah, absolutely.
What's the website link?
It's drsteviedawn.com, drsteviedawn.com. And you can find all my stuff on there. And then if you follow me on Facebook, you can also find the art gallery and dance and everything else. Because on Facebook, everything's mixed together, all of it. So it's all there.
Okay, brilliant. So definitely go check that out, because I love art as well. It's my daughter's an artist, and so her and her boyfriend met each other at university, and he's an illustrator and she's an artist, and they brought those two things together. And so I'm the fortunate receiver of lots of fine art for birthdays and Christmas, and they're now putting art on the t-shirts and absolutely, I love it. So I mean, you're obviously an artistic person, you're a creative person, you're a musician, you sing, you dance. Is there anything that you don't like doing? Is there anything in your business that like you just go,
yes. In fact, my least favorite thing in the world is to write copy. I hate writing copy. I know, right? I hate writing copy. I hate writing, honestly, in general. I have published a couple books, but those were labors of love, because I am not a writer. It's not my gift. So writing copy in my business is my least favorite thing. And I think it's one of the things that I waited too long into my business before I started going, you know what? I really don't like this. And there are people who are really good at this. I should hire those people. So now it's a lot better than it was. But yeah, writing copy, I hate that. It's just not me, because I'm just kind of like, aren't I awesome? Don't you want to hang out with me? That would be my idea of a copy. Like,
that's your copy. Full stop.
Yeah, that's it. Full stop. Like, and just click here. That I feel like that should be all there is. Like, what more do you need? So yeah, so copy is the thing that I struggle with the most.
So when you're thinking about all of your journey, because you're obviously world traveled, you've grown up an incredibly creative family, and I'm sure that they gave you lots of experiences. I'm sure you experienced a lot in your life that many people haven't experienced. So what, out of all the confessions that you could choose for your business, because this is Confessions of a Global Changemaker, that's the name of the show, so we've got to get a confession out of you, Stevie. Come on, what would your confession, out of all the things, what would your number one confession be?
I think when it comes to business, I have to confess that I don't know how to do it all myself. And that's very hard. It's hard to say it, even though I know it's to be true, it's still hard to say. I think because of my experiences, because of growing up all over the world, we traveled a ton as I was a kid. And so I was very used to just doing what I wanted to do. Get up, do what I want to do. Here I am. Funny story. So I lived in Ireland for 3 years. I went to college there, and I was an American here doing the college thing in Ireland, and I was convinced that they needed a cheerleading squad, because what could be more American than that? I created the first Irish university cheerleading squad.
I was going to say, that would have been a first, I'm sure.
That ever happened. It was quite a thing. But so I'm used to doing that. I'm used to just going and doing. And I think what I found in business is I would go and I would do, but it just wasn't making me money. It wasn't good enough. And that was really hard for me, because I'm like, no, I don't do anything half-assed. I use my whole ass to get it done. Like I don't understand how this can't be working. And I think understanding that as a business owner, you can't do it all yourself, and you have to ask for help, and you have to be willing to ask for help. I think that's something that I still have to work on every day. In fact, yesterday I called my coach. Part of the reason I have a coach is to call someone when you have help. But I had literally banged my head against this desk for 4 days before I called her because I didn't want to admit that I was struggling. I didn't want to admit that I had an issue and I needed to call my coach. So, I mean, which is ridiculous because I know that that's what she's there for. And I know that she's great at it. And she always solves my problems. And I felt so much better. But I think that's my confession, is that I can't do it all myself. And that hurts to say, but for any other business owners out there, take my word for it, my experience, my journey, but find in yourself that place where you say, you know what, I do need help and it's okay. It's not a failure. It doesn't make you less than. You need help. Go get the help that you need. I wish I had gotten the help earlier. I think that our business would be in a much different place today if I had gotten help earlier.
What has been your experience of asking for help then? What is it about you that doesn't ask for that doesn't feel to ask for help?
Okay, so I think it's I am the best. I really feel like I should always strive to be the best, and I want to think of myself as the best. And so there's a part of me that's saying, does it make me look less than knowledgeable or less than good if I ask for help? Right? So it's just playing into those old thoughts and ideas that I have to be perfect, right? And nobody's perfect, and we all know that. But admitting it, knowing it and admitting it are two very different things. And
then doing something about it is another
is like a whole other thing, right? That's like level 3, right? Like that's hard stuff. And I think so for me, asking for help, in order for me to ask for help, I first have to admit to myself that I need the help. Then I have to admit myself that it will not make me less of something to ask for help. And so I think that's my key, and that's what I have to work on. Like, it's not admitting defeat. It's not saying I'm failing. It's not saying I'm not good enough. It's just saying, hey, I need help on this because this isn't my strength. This isn't what I do well. So let me do that.
Yeah, I love it. Luana says, together we can go farther, letting go and allowing the universe to bring in the resources and support.
So true,
where did that come from, though? I mean, like at an early age, something must have happened for you to make that decision that you weren't going to ask for help. What was that?
Yeah, I think, for me, I'm going to say it was because growing up, I'm an only child, and I had 2 very supportive parents, but I also had 2 parents who were very busy. My dad continued to play music plus work. My mom was working and moving her way up the corporate ladder. I was on my own a lot. And so I became very self-sufficient. I could take care of myself. In fact, somebody once told my father, when I was like 8 years old, I actually got my first job, and they couldn't pay me because I was 8 years old. So they had to pay my dad. And it was teaching dance at the local community center because I wanted to dance and there was nobody there to teach it. So I taught them my own little routines. And so my dad had to accept my paycheck. And I remember the community center guy saying to my dad at some point, something along the lines of, has she ever actually been a kid? And my dad's like, no, she's been 30 for forever. So I think that's kind of always where I was. I was self-sufficient. And I think while that's really cool, I had a lot of really cool experiences because I was self-sufficient. I do think it programmed my brain to say, you can do it all on your own. So you don't need help. And I think that's really where that comes from, is as we get older, those tapes, those narratives that we play come back to haunt us, And even though I had a great childhood, there are a lot of people who had horrible childhoods, and overcoming that is a whole other thing. I had a great childhood. I was blessed. I was spoiled, but there were still some of those things that happened that I still have to unprogram now. And I think that's important also for all of us to remember. We have things that were programmed in us as kids, and sometimes you got to take a look at it and unprogram it and realize, okay, that served me then.
Right.
That's no longer serving me now.
How does that play out? I'm going to ask this question from personal experience now.
Yeah.
How does that play out in your relationship at home? Because like you, I was an only child until I was 11. And then my mum had my first brother. And then she had another brother when I was 12. And so, but then I was more like a kind of mum figure to them, because I was the one that got sent in. If they were getting bullied, it was Sam, go and sort it out. It was just like, I then became like this kind of extra parent to them. Before I went off to university, and I loved being a big sister. I loved that kind of the mama bear feeling, and I guess I've always been like that. But because I was an only child and because I had an amazing childhood and great role models, and I'm fiercely independent. And my husband, God bless him, he just, like he says, just remember to tell me stuff. Like I just get on with stuff and I forget. I feel like I've already had the conversation, and he's like, you haven't told me that. I thought we had that conversation. No, you haven't told me that yet. That was in your head. And I don't know if it's this like independent thing, because I just was always independent. I did what I wanted. I got what I wanted. what I like you. I started work very young as well. So how does that play out in your relationships? Because I know that I have to really work hard to remember that I have other people around me.
Yeah, no, I think very similar. I've had a very similar experience. So my husband and I worked together in the business. I was able to retire him 3 years ago. And we often find places where I thought we had the conversation. I could have sworn I said it. And then he's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And reminding myself that I'm not the only one involved in this, it is something I have to do. And one of the things that we started a while back, and it has so helped us, and then in COVID, it's helped us a lot, is we have weekly meetings. And not like our staff meeting with our other freelancers and all that. No, but we have a weekly meeting, him and I. And literally the meeting is, Stevie Dawn, what are you working on? Because you probably haven't told me. And so I get out my list and I go, okay, so I'm working on this and I'm working on that. And then he asks questions. But we found we have to do that because otherwise he doesn't know what's going on. And it's not his fault. It's because I never say anything. Because I am so self-sufficient. I'm just going. I'm just doing. Mm-hmm. And it usually isn't until something goes wrong that then I like struggle. And he's super technologically gifted. I am not. I break things if I touch them electronically. So, it usually comes to some kind of tech issue. Like, hey, this calendar link is no longer working on my Acuity. What do I do? And he's like, what's Acuity? What are you talking about, right? Like, I've done all of this. And so now I'm like, hey, fix it. And he's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, I don't even have a starting point. So having that weekly meeting where it's just, what am I working on that I haven't yet told him about so that he can ask questions has super helped us to start having fewer of those moments. But even today, we had the same calendar link is always my thing. I don't know how I break it so often, but I break it all the time. And so somebody emailed me today and said, hey, you sent me the link, but it's not working. I can't find time. Da, da, da. And I asked him about it, and he's like, which link are you talking about? That we haven't even discussed that one. Like, we focused on these last time we had an issue. And I'm like, sorry, there's these others. Can you please help? And of course he fixed it and he didn't complain because he's a good man. But right. Being self-sufficient means that I keep everything to myself. I have a lot of conversations with myself. Yeah. I have the voices in my head and I listen to them all the time, which means I can think that I've said something out loud. I can think that I've been clear, but then I find out later that it really wasn't. It was just me. And so for me, having that weekly meeting has made a huge difference in our relationship, because we'll also talk personal stuff like, hey, I want to work on getting the fence repainted this week, or we need to look at the air conditioner. Have you talked to your mom about dinner on Sunday? Like, we do the family stuff too, because that's the only way for me to slow down enough to say all the things I need to say, because otherwise I just go too fast and I forget that I haven't informed not only him, but also he makes sure I inform everybody else, because I'm bad about informing my team about stuff too. I'll make a change and not tell anybody and think everybody should just magically know.
It must be like an only child syndrome type thing. I mean, how many of you watching this now, like if you were an only child or listening to this, if you were an only child, do you resonate with this? Because I totally resonate. And actually, I had a week off last week.
You did? That's right. How did it go?
I did. how it went was my husband had decided to set up a business. And so I ended up spending most of the time answering questions because we didn't quite work it out. I didn't communicate to him. He knew I was having a week's holiday, but I didn't communicate to him, apparently, that he needed to take a holiday at the same time as me, and that I had to tell him to take a holiday at the same time. So that was a fun communication thing. But here's something that I did. I'm going to lean down now. I just have to have this with me, right?
Okay.
Here's something I did because I couldn't switch off.
Yeah.
My brain doesn't switch off.
Nope.
And so I went and bought myself a
coloring book. I love it.
So, and I also bought rum because I knew that would be a good way. I know Donnie would like that. Donnie, I know you like a good glass of rum. I knew it would be a good way for us to sit down and just do nothing but doodle. Because I'm like, I don't know why, but I just find it easier because I'm so creative all the time. But when I'm on downtime, I don't want to have to perform. So I liked the fact that somebody had already drawn it for me and all I needed to do was colour it in.
Yeah.
So we sat down one night. I said, come on, we're going to do some colouring. He went, what? We're going to do some colouring. So we got the table out on the boat and poured the rum. And look what we did. And
that's beautiful.
So this is his. His is the donkey. So that's good. And mine was the stag. And of course, I had to buy sparkly pens. We couldn't just have normal pens.
No, of course
not.
not.
What that did, and it taught me a really good lesson, exactly like you're saying now. While we were doing that, because our conscious mind was focused on actually filling in the gaps. We were having amazing. Did you speak to James about that? Oh no, I haven't talked to James. Oh, what's James up to then? And we were having all these conversations about all this stuff that had been happening in both of our worlds. Because especially now he's building his business and I'm building my couple of businesses. And so, you know, even though we're on one boat, you can still not tell each other.
Yeah.
So it's really nice just doing that. So I love your idea of the meeting once a week. And I think I must insist so we don't get distracted on anything else. We're just focused on one thing.
I love it.
We'll do like early learning. We'll
but you know what? It's so true though that when we give our mind something to focus on that isn't the work, right? That's something else, drawing, creative, music, art, whatever it is, you then allow yourself to have these free form thoughts that before, when you're in like analytical mode, you can't get out and you have these amazing conversations. One of our things as well is I do a lot of happy hours with people for business and for my coaching clients and things like that. We do a lot of happy hours. We actually have a monthly happy hour. It's called the Happier Happy Hour. And it's a happy hour where you're not allowed to complain about anything. Right? Because how many of us go to happy hours and all we do is complain about things that are going on? You can only talk about good things. You can only be happy. So we do that once a month.
We wine and we drink wine.
Exactly. So we have happier happy hour. But one of the things that we've decided to do is he doesn't necessarily participate in the happy hours because it's not his thing, right? It's my thing. It's my group. But what we've started doing is if I am going to have happy hour and I'm going to have a glass of wine or a beverage, he has one at the same time. So that then it feels like we're doing it together, even though we're not. And then afterwards, we have one ourselves. And that's been something that's really helped us to reconnect and to talk about. Then he gets to talk about all the happy hour things that we talked about. And it's really been nice to have that time where we don't turn on the TV. We're not at our desks, but we just crack open a beer, have a glass of wine, whatever it is, and just have that time together. And so we've made that a commitment too. That anytime I have happy hour, we also have happy hour. And that's been really good to connect as well. Because we don't
like
do that.
Commitments, isn't it? It's conscious commitments that give you the full spectrum of happiness or happy hours in both work and business, isn't it?
Right. And realizing that for most of us, the commitments we will always break are the ones to ourselves, but we won't break commitments to other people. So when you involve other people, you now are on the hook. Like, I have to do it because I committed. Whereas when I commit to myself, like to working out 3 times a week, I could totally disregard that commitment. But one of the things, right, my husband and I, we work out more when we work out together because it's a commitment. Hey, I worked out. Are you going to work out today? Oh, crap. I need to work out because you worked out. So I do feel like conscious commitments are important, but I also think sometimes we need to make those commitments to somebody else because we're less likely to not fulfill it. Whereas when it's just us, I'm really easy. I let myself down all the time. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
Right. But I won't let my team down. I won't let a client down. I won't let him down. So, yeah, I love that.
You resonate with this? Who has the same issue? I can totally resonate with all of this. Mm-hmm. So, Stevie, like, when you're working with clients, then how do you work? Do you work one-to-one? Do you work in groups? Like, how do you create all of this amazingness that you've built?
This amazingness. Yeah. So I have two different ways that I work with clients. I do have private clients one-on-one where we do an hour every week or maybe 90 minutes every 2 weeks, whatever kind of fits for them. And it's really for those people. I think the people attracted to one-on-one work with me are people who know that they need to do the work, but know that they won't do it themselves, right? Like that idea of the commitment. Yeah. I'm going to call you on it every Monday at our call. So are you going to let me down and say you didn't get it done? No, you're going to do it because you don't want to let me down. So I do have a lot of one-on-one clients in that space. And it's really for those people who need that accountability, right? Those commitments to each other. But where I really love my work, I think is I love group dynamics. I'm a sociologist at heart, right? I studied sociology for my master's degree. So I love group dynamics and how groups work together. And I love getting in there and stirring the pot a little bit because it's fun. So for me, my group coaching program is really my heart. And that's because we put together this group of people and they talk to me twice a month. We do these 90-minute coaching calls and it's a lot of content, a lot of tips, but it's also their questions and their own answers. And I think so much of what holds us back from achieving success in our life is all up here and all in here. It's not strategy, right? You can go learn the strategy. I could learn the strategy of copywriting. It is my negativity towards it. It's my belief that I can't. That's what holds me back. It's not the skill, right? Skills can be learned, but the mindset, the gut instincts, your programming, that's what holds us back. So I really love that group coaching program because I feel like the dynamic of the group, hearing each other's challenges and sharing their own experience makes it such a richer environment and just an experience for change, which I just love. So we just started, we did a beta test last year. We just started our group program. Technically, our first group call is next week. Super excited about it. But super excited to see people also make a commitment to themselves in length of time, right? So it's a 6-month program. And sometimes we know that when we just say, oh, I'll show up when I can. Do you really show up? Something else gets in the way. This is a 6-month commitment. And I think the fact that they make the commitment, not just to me, but to the group, that they're going to show up, that they're going to participate. And that's something we do at the very beginning. I think it makes it more meaningful for everybody. So I'm super excited. We start next week with this new group. We got a great group of entrepreneurs in the mix. And it's just going to be really powerful to see what they can accomplish in 6 months. But yeah, I do both.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And so, obviously with your sociology background then, I mean, the way that the world has had to adapt over the last 5 months. So, there are some things that are just totally unrecognizable. Like, how do you see the coaching industry continuing to adapt? I mean, I just literally, before we came on here, I delivered, over an hour's worth of training for a group of fitness professionals who all have different fitness businesses, but of course that's an industry that is totally saturated and they're all different from one another, but they're competing for the same eyeballs and the same advertising. And now all of a sudden we're in a world where we've been starved of connection. So now everybody wants connection. And then when they get that connection, it's creating chaos all over the world. So from a sociological point of view, like, what would you do if you were running the world? What would you do from to change what's happening?
Yeah. I think that what we have to remember is that as a group, we tend to be less critical than we are as individuals, right? So when a group gets together and decides where to go to dinner, they just kind of, people throw out ideas and then we just say, okay, yeah, that sounds good. I feel like, Chili's tonight. Okay. And we go. When an individual starts to think about where they go to dinner, they start analyzing. I start thinking about the cost. I start thinking about the drive. What's the wait like, right? All of these different things. As a group, we typically don't do that. We just kind of go with our gut and move forward. So I think right now we're seeing this place where we've got lots of groups in society that are just kind of doing that. We're going with our gut. We're moving forward, not necessarily taking all the critical steps or taking the critical analysis that may need to actually happen. And so I think one of the things that we can all do to make a change in our world today is make sure that you're not doing that you're not a part of that, but that you're still doing some critical process for yourself, because it becomes really easy to feel peer pressure. It becomes really easy to just go with the group, to be liked and to be a part of something. And I think right now, because we're craving that belonging, we're craving that connection, I think you see people more willing to become part of a group that they may not have become part of before. But now they just want that connection. So I'm just going to join in. But really, if they did the critical analysis, they would see that their values aren't really aligned with my values, but somehow I just kind of ended up here with this group of people. So I think if it were my world, right, and I could do something epically amazing for everyone, I would really make value setting and purpose-driven decisions to be something we taught children, because I think it's something that we're missing. I think that we're missing our critical thinking. I think we're missing our alignment of values with the people that we're going to hang out with. Not that any alignment of values is wrong. Everybody's allowed to value what they want to value. But I think we need to align ourselves with the people that share the values that you have. And I think that making decisions based on our purpose and what we're supposed to be doing, right, in terms of that feels aligned with our soul, I don't think we teach people how to do that. I mean, I know I sure didn't learn how to have that until I was well later in life. So I think you would see a major change in society over time if we were able to teach children some of those things that we have to learn as adults, because children, as we know, soak things up so much easier. That, why aren't we teaching? It's kind of like, why aren't we teaching finances and budgeting to children? We're trying to teach that to a 35-year-old who's broke and has bad credit. It's a very different thing. Let's teach it to them as kids. Can we teach social awareness and emotional intelligence to the kids? Can we teach purpose-driven decision-making? Can we teach critical thinking? Can we teach value alignment? If we taught those things to the children, then 20, 30 years from now, you would see a change in our society. And I think we're headed that direction. I think we're thinking of those things and having some of those things. But I think right now we're just in this space of people are craving connection, that they're just grouping together. And I don't think they're necessarily doing the alignment discussion of, is this a group I want to align myself with? And is this, I mean, for me, what I spend a lot of my time talking to my clients about is this a job? Is this a business that you want to align yourself with? Does this feel good to you? Because so many of us start businesses out of need, right? I think right now we're seeing a lot of that. People are starting businesses because they need to.
Yeah.
But that may not actually be the business that you really want to have 3 years down the line. So how do we make sure that people are making those decisions in a good way, in a wholehearted way? So.
Completely agree. And it's interesting when you think about how, as kids, we're working so hard to fit in, to find our place, to fit in. And, if we're too loud, it's, be quiet, speak when you're spoken to, and all that. You think of all the things that are layered onto us conversationally as a kid, and you want to be a star. No, fit in. Like, you're embarrassing me. Stop singing. You think of all those messages that go in and build up all those layers as kids, and then we get to adults, and like you say, I mean, I didn't know really what my purpose was until I was 38 and burned out and questioning why had I built all of that wealth when actually it didn't mean anything and I didn't feel good? And well, hang on, I thought that when you're rich financially, that then you'd be happy and then you'd have it. No, it just doesn't work like that. And if, as you say, if we were taught that at a younger age, and I think we're kind of going there. I think there's a lot of people that are on a mission to do that. I've definitely got Brand Builders Club members who that's their business, is to they're in the business of kids' happiness and making sure they are aligned with purpose. I remember I spoke to the Brownies. I don't know. Do you have Brownies?
Yeah, absolutely we do.
Yeah, global brand. Right?
I was a brownie.
Were you a brown? I was a brownie.
I
was a brownie. I was a rainbow and I was a brownie. And I didn't become a girl guide. I'd kind of moved on. I was more interested in boys than doing that sort of stuff by that point. But with the brownies, I was really, really impressed because about 6 years ago, I was invited to go and speak to the brownies. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, to go and empower our young women. That would be awesome. And I must say, I was super impressed. They had a whole curriculum. And the night that I went, they were working on values, which couldn't have been more perfect for me. And I was really impressed that at such a young age, they were teaching them about values and how to understand their values and how to choose their values. And I thought that was amazing that they were doing that. And it's unfortunate that not everybody is doing that. And but like you say, if it was part of a curriculum, we would learn more about ourselves. And my mentor, Penny Power, she said to me a few weeks ago that, we come into the world and we're born and it's all about ego. It's all about survival and fitting in and how you fit in at the same time as standing out, and you're finding your identity and you go through life. And so you start off with ego and you die with spirit and purpose. It's like, we kind of must get to this kind of middle point of our life. But isn't it a shame that we get to that middle point of our life before we really understand what that is? And I wonder what the world would be like if we did know
earlier on. Well, and how much of our work, I know the work that you do and the work that I do, how much of our work is telling people that it's okay to stand out. When their whole life they were told not to. And that's, and again, it's just, well, if we could go back and do that as kids, then maybe we wouldn't have some of the things that we have today where people are combating some of that pre-programming. And I think that for entrepreneurs, especially, you talk about a crowded market or with the coaches, right, and the fitness industry, right, saturated. So what we're teaching them is to stand out, which is exactly what they were not taught to do as a kid. And again, how much harder is it to learn when you're in your 30s, right? So much harder than if we could teach them how to do that in a good, constructive way, not stand out in a bad, evil way, but in a good, constructive way. If we could teach them that when they're 8 or they're 9, then how would their life be different by the time they got to their 20s and 30s, knowing exactly what they wanted to do, knowing how to align with their values, and being able to stand out in a better way? I just think that really is something that kids
let's
need.
Manifest that world. If we all have space for that, let's manifest it. Stevie, we're coming to the end of our time together, and I'm going to spend way more time with you, but I've got a couple more questions for you. So, because this is all totally random and I just think of it on the spot. So I love a question that one of our Brand Builders Club members asked me when she interviewed me. I thought it was really, really cool. And she said, Sammy, what do you know for sure? And I thought that was such a good question. So what do you know for sure?
What I know for sure is that if you spend your time helping others, you will always end up helping yourself. I know that for sure. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you spend a moment to help somebody else, you will end up helping yourself in return. And so when you're feeling down on your luck or you're feeling like things aren't great, go help somebody else. You'll help yourself in return. I know that for sure.
Yeah, I know that for sure as well. Who was it that said that you'll always get what you want when you help others to get what they want? There's someone famous.
There is someone famous who said that, though. Yeah, I don't know who, but they're great, and
they're right. They're spot on.
They are.
We'll give them credit for that. And what would be like your ideal dream thing if we could help you to manifest anything? What would it be? Like anything.
Anything.
Money is no object.
Money is no object. Time is no object. What I would love to have is at the end of my life to know that 1 million people heard my voice and that it mattered. That's what I would love. That would be my manifestation. So I think I'm up to like, I don't know, probably a couple thousand. So we're moving that direction. But I feel like our voices are super powerful. And I think that what you say to a person can change their life, can change their view, can change everything. And so at the end of my life, my goal would be that 1 million people heard my voice and it mattered to them.
I love that. Isn't that good? Guys and girls, show some love for Dr. Stevie Dawn Carter, who is on the show today, who has answered so authentically and honestly. And thank you so much for showing up for us today.
Oh, of course. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We heard you, and we've been impacted by you, so you can tick us off the list.
I will. I'll add you to the tally. It's okay.
So I'm going to get your website up on the screen there. So and you can obviously follow Stevie on social media, and just Google her and you'll find everything, including the art and all the beautiful things that you're doing as well. Thank you so much for bringing your heart and being a lighthouse for us today, and for doing it from across the channel. So
this is so awesome. We
started dancing. I think we should finish.
We should end dancing. I love it. We're doing it.
We had a song to dance to.
I think we need to come up with a theme song. Like, I feel like if we're going to do this, we need to have something that like really gets us going. So that'll be our goal for next time.
Okay, for next time. We'll work it out. Stevie, you are a delight. You just make my heart sing every time we come in. I haven't known you for very long, but I feel like I've known you a lot longer.
Same.
Thank you for being here with us today, guys and girls listening and watching. Thank you for being here and for showing up for yourself as well as showing up for us. We'll be back next week. Confessions of a Global Changemaker show every Tuesday and Thursday, same time, same place, and drum roll, we are launching Brand Builders TV. So go and check out the Brand Builders TV Facebook page. So it's facebook.com/Brand Builders TV. Please go like it, go follow it, go share it. We are hitting the ground running next week with our first episodes. So we've got 4 episodes going live a day. And these are all Brand Builders Club members who are doing the most phenomenal stuff in the world. And I want to bring those gifts that they're giving to everybody else. I want you to have them. So we're bringing them to you through Brand Builders TV. So please support us in our mission to reach those lives, help Stevie to get out there and reach those million people. And remember, by helping others to get what they want, you'll always get what you want. So it'll come back for you. If you help to share us, it'll always come back. So thank you so much. Have an amazing day, morning, evening, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. I'm sending you love while you do it, and keep dancing. We'll see you next week. Mwah. See you later.
Bye.